Dr. Gospel. You're welcome. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Hello, good afternoon, Madam Fola. Thank you so much for your time. It's a great honor to be here. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, and hope you're having a very smooth day, safe to say. We'll just jump right into it. It's going to be a very explosive session today, very insightful, with very clear pathways as to how we can make tangible progress in our lives. Let me just quickly share my screen so I can get it all started. Yes. Great. Please let me know if you can all see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Okay. Just a second. Yes, fantastic. So, like Madam Fola had mentioned, we're going to be having a very, very strategic conversation this afternoon on how to start, switch, and build a successful career in fundraising. And I'm going to explain why fundraising and why are we doing this at this crucial time. Just to give an overview, there are many of us who are on the call today who are skilled in several areas, but you're probably looking to switch roles or switch industries that you play in. And you have some very, very good skill sets. You've built a very good track record, as the case may be, and you're looking for something else that you could sort of have more expression of your time in terms of best use of your time, have some flexibility around it, and also earn a good income in. And I would explain deeper around that. There are some of us who have recently come into the country, and back in Nigeria or back home in Africa or wherever you came from in code, you know, you were a senior executive, you were a mid-level career person there, you led a team, you led projects, you did big stuff, you know, you did really great stuff. And now you're here in the UK, you are just like, you know, like everyone else, you're constantly being threatened with the with menial opportunities that you feel that you have more better capacity for. You feel that it probably doesn't match what you are looking to do in the UK, what your goal and ambitions or aspirations are. And you're probably looking for ways you can stabilize and get into something that is really meaningful, best use of your skill sets and career pathway. This is something you should start considering. Or you could be someone who your partner has already got their sponsorship sorted, but you're a senior person in your own right as a career professional, and you're looking for an area where you can begin to build your entry into the UK job market or career space and all that. This also works for you significantly. So this is a huge call, and this session is also going to be a challenge to encourage us to think differently, to act differently, to commit differently, and to be able to make the most of our skill sets differently. There is simply no reason why you are in this UK looking to switch your roles, looking to switch your career or looking to jump into a career space where it'll be profitable for you and you can't seemingly find the opportunity, maybe due to information or something. But I would also unveil more things as we go on. So, very broadly speaking, it's important for us to understand that crisis is economic opportunity when viewed from a different lens. And when we talk about economic opportunity to improve your earnings, opportunity to improve your income, opportunity to also build some flexibility around your life. You want to have time for the kids, you want to be able to do school runs, you want to be able to be flexible around terms of engagement and all that. You know, understand that the crisis you're faced in one form or the other now is an economic opportunity to improve your personal economy. So even if you're seeking to switch jobs, you already have transferable skill sets that you can use to sort of milk this opportunity. So first and foremost, my encouragement to everyone on the call is to view where you are differently. As we lens you through fundraising in terms of opportunities in fundraising, view where you are differently and begin to look at ways to position yourself. But very broadly, why fundraising? And if I talk about the fundraising market in total, why fundraising as a career path? Why should you consider fundraising? And what are the diverse opportunities that are hosted there? First and foremost, do you know that at least 9 billion pounds, you know, is being made available in terms of impact investments to social enterprises in the UK? Now, when you talk about social enterprises in the UK, you're talking about charities, you're talking about companies limited by guarantee, everybody who does business or who does some form of charitable work within communities or within regional spaces or even national spaces. All right. So at least 9 billion goes into that sector every year, at least, and it's always more than this. So this is just the least we can, safely say it is. But then again, you have over 8,000 trusts and foundations. And these are a group of individuals who have some monies by virtue of the work they do or the investments that they've had over a period of time or their interest. Basically, they have some monies that they want to sort of give to charities, local charities, regional charities, national charities, who are constantly looking for ways to improve the life of people in the communities or improve the quality of life, at the grassroots level or even at the systemic level. All right, so you've got over 8,000 trusts and foundations, 8,000. And you have about £56 million worth of grants and funding available from government for startups in the UK. So we're not just talking about social enterprises or charities or NGOs or even churches. Churches are registered as charities. If you don't know that, churches are primarily registered as NGOs, but just that many churches do not understand the power that they have in terms of their legal structure to be able to raise finance. So they depend a lot on the Sunday, inflow, quote unquote, if you understand what I mean, the tithes, the offerings and co to survive. But as far as you're registered as a charity in the UK, you're registered with the Charity Commission, you have what it takes to access unlimited funding. In the US, you have at least $103 billion that is being made available in funding alone to the social enterprise space and all of that. And you have about 53,000 trusts and foundations alone in the US. Now, why am I saying this? The world is evolving. There is more social inequality. There is the rising cost of living crisis. People are leaving jobs. People are being laid off. There are more challenges. There's geopolitical risk, Russian-Ukraine war and all that. There is a rise in price of food, rise in house rents. I'm just trying to be as layman as possible. There is a rise in basically what it costs you to get by on a day-to-day. Now, within the context of all of that, there is also a shrinking job market across board. There's a shrinking job market. People are laying people off. In the UK particularly, there's a contracting UK economy, meaning that the government is trying to take more monies or more opportunities out of the system for whatever reason. If you follow the news recently, you realize that the UK has more contracting. However, in the midst of this clampdown, in the midst of these cracks, in the midst of these social inequalities and worsening state of living, there's increasing impact investment or funding being made available to support charities and institutions who are trying to solve these social inequality-based challenges across board. So if you look very closely, there's one food bank in your local area. There is a youth mentorship and empowerment support program. There's a mental wellness stuff going on. There is so many things going on at your local doorstep level, at your council level. Now, if you go mainstream into regional levels, you'll see some big charities, that you probably have heard of. You see seafarers and all of these guys who are protecting and looking after veterans and a couple of that. If you go national, you have your Macmillan Trust, you have your cancer research, you have a lot of foundations that you already have heard about or some sort. Now, in the UK alone, there's over 200,000 social enterprises like this. In fact, there's an estimation somewhere that they're up to 1.5 million who are available, who are ready to do work to support the standard of living of people. But the challenge has been, to a large extent, the money that they need to sort of do the work that they are legally structured and positioned to do is not available. They cannot seem to access them. All right. Those monies are available from the trust and foundations, but the social enterprises are constantly struggling to access that finance. And there's a reason why. There is a gap. And one of the major reasons why is that most social enterprises are unable to access the funding because they don't have the skill sets, the personnels, the capacity to access those monies and to use those monies to deliver the project they say they will deliver. So even if a charity has a very bright idea and all that, how do you conceptualize that project in such a way that it appeals to a trust and foundation. Now, one trust and foundation, for instance, in Nigeria, sorry, not in Nigeria, in the UK, is, let me look for one, Baron Kirby Trust, for instance, who works in women empowerment and all of that. Baron Kirby Trust probably has like 1 million, 5 million, 10 million, 7 million, as the case may be. And they're looking to give these monies out to charities who are supporting women. But many charities who are supporting women in form of women empowerment, women upskilling, women career development, EDI, and all of these things, cannot access those monies because they are unable to develop the project, identify the impact metrics, identify the bid, and all of those things to access those monies. Now, increasingly, funders are keen about who they give money to because they want to be sure that there is a return on investment on those monies they're giving out. So how do you bridge the gap between people who want to give and people who need it the most, but they can't access it? So the only solution and the only way to bridge that gap is to have an individual internally, or to work with an individual externally, or to work with someone who has set up a business in that order, who provides the services of a fundraiser. So as a fundraiser, your job is to conceptualize and create compelling project cases for social enterprises so that it positions them to access the monies they need to do their project. Now, the trust and foundations that have been set up, one of the primary reasons why they've been set up is to pool funding together from diverse sources, from rich people, from corporates, from governments, as the case may be, pool monies together from diverse sources and ensure that those monies go into, reputable social causes. But one of the challenges that funders have is that they don't even know which cause is reputable. I can wake up tomorrow and set up a CIC or set up a charity, but how can they tell if I'm reputable or not? They don't know who is reputable. They don't know what projects will actually fly. They don't know what projects can really deliver in terms of social causes. And there's some things they're also looking out to see in projects that they are really not seeing in many cases. Because one of the challenges why social enterprises cannot access finance as well is that the few of them who are able to write bids are falling short of the quality of bids that need to go. And when you talk about quality of bids that need to go, you're talking about being able to measure the impact, being able to identify the impact, being able to say this is what this project will deliver in terms of impact. These are the number of beneficiaries, or this is how people will benefit from this particular funding if you give it to us, in terms of delivering this project. So you are that individual you're looking for to sort of bridge the two worlds together. So if you then look at every charity in the UK today, funding is the number one thing on the list they are struggling with. Funding is number one. So how is it possible that there's so much abundance of a thing, yet people are struggling to access it? So there are skills required. There's a technical know-how. There's a capability know-how. There's a savviness required to be able to access or position charities to access this funding. And there are different pathways. There are 3 broad pathways to building a career in fundraising, and I'll go into all the details shortly. Number 1, you can go into fundraising as an employee. And you can start anywhere on the ladder, but there are different criteria which I'll also talk about. You can go into fundraising as an employee. So you can go into fundraising as a fundraising officer, or as a fundraising assistant, or as a fundraising manager, or as a head of fundraising, or as a director of fundraising. Now, in most cases, what we've seen around is you've seen lots of business analysts trainings, you've seen a lot of project management trainings or project manager trainings, you've seen a lot of program manager trainings, but you hardly see fundraising manager or fundraising role-based trainings. And if you go on LinkedIn or go on Indeed right now as I speak to you, if I go on LinkedIn, that way you get to see it more clearly. If you impute a project manager role, if you impute a program manager role, with respect to those roles, you see so many applicants already. But impute fundraising manager roles, in most cases, you see 4 applicants only, 10 applicants only, 20 applicants only. I'm going to share my story very soon. I applied for a fundraising role in April. I got a job in May. And I currently, in my capacity, I head a fundraising function in one of the largest national civil rights charities for Black people in the UK. I head that function full-fledged. So I head fundraising and programs there. And I deliver support. I raise money for the organization. I generate income for the organization. And I develop programs for the organization. So I actually head that role and the charity does 2.7 million in turnover. So, but there are many charities who do 800K, 1 million, 500K, 700K, 300K, 200K, and they are looking for monies because they are looking to scale. Even the ones that are doing 2.7 million like us, we are looking for more money too, So very broadly, you can get into the space as an employee. All right, you can negotiate your days, do 3 days, 4 days, as the case may be. Now, the second path is to work as a freelancer or as a contract-based personnel in terms of consultancy now. So I also, in my own personal role and capacity, I provide consultancy to social enterprises who are seeking to raise monies. So they pay me to conceptualize a project for them. They pay me to write a bid for them. I put in those things for them. It comes out successful in many cases. And again, there are tricks to how you do this thing. There are many applications I've put in that have been unsuccessful as well. But over time, I've learned the, secret of the trade. So there are tricks to how you do this thing. And many of my applications recently have come out successful. And then they get to raise the funding, they move on. Now, there are ways to also make money off that when people raise money. Because if you raise 50K for someone, for instance, and the person pays you, let's assume 3K to write the bid, you've literally given the person 47K for free. So how can you also be in the pipeline where you're also being paid as they do their project? There are tactics to it. There's also a third level where you can start a business that helps charities. So the second level I talked about, the consultancy level I talked about, is because, for instance, many charities or social enterprises do not have the money to employ people full-time or even part-time. But they can pay you money one-off to help them write a bid. So you go and help them source the bids. Again, fundraising sources. Where do you source for the funding? How do you source for the funding? How do you interpret funding bids and opportunities to know which one to apply for? Those are things that I would get to speak on. But let me just proceed with the conversation. I would come to all these bits later on. But just to land on the third option, you can also start a business that provides that support for social enterprises, and you structure it, get clients and all that. How do you get clients? How do you sell the idea? People are very skeptical about fundraising. People are scared to collect money from trust and foundations. They don't even know what it means, and because, in fact, there's a statistic that says that out of that 9 billion you see, less than 1% of it goes to Black-owned charities. And that's because by virtue of our upbringing, our social backgrounds as Black people, we are naturally wired to do charity from our pockets, to support, because we are passionate, to support people from our, so we are blessed to bless others, that kind of thing, which is fantastic, which is good. But I'm telling you right now that there is a lot of money available. So the blessing there can just be that you've created a system or a structure to support women, to support young people, to support, people in education, to drive sustainability causes, to drive climate action, many diverse sources, to go into biodiversity, to go into agriculture, food security, anything at all you want to do. You can create that structure, but you don't have to run it from your pocket. So if you go to check many people who have tried to run things like that from their pocket, they've been burnt out trying to do that. I get calls every day and I get exhausted many times listening to the story, but I have to support people because in many cases, people run to me because I'm also Black and have mastered the craft very nicely on the consultancy, as a business, and even as an employee somewhere. So you can have all three, you can navigate, as your time permits or as your interest, desires and all of that. But primarily, the goal is to now get more Black-owned charities or Black social enterprises to access monies. Now, I'm not trying to be, ethnically biased in what I'm trying to say, but again, it's a low-hanging fruit. And I'm going to talk about that very closely. Why should you be a career in fundraising? Number one, it is one of the least explored spaces. Like I mentioned, there are trainings in project management, there's training in program management, there's a lot of training in business analysts. If you apply for a business analyst role, there are probably tons and tons and tons and tons of people who are already on the waiting queue. All right. But fundraising is one area and one space that is least explored. And it will shock you that you don't have enough ethnically diverse people who play in the market. So the number of Black people or the number of Asians in the space who play in as fundraisers they're literally a handful. Most people who play there are white people because of how they think about philanthropy and all of that. But if we can also get ourselves involved in the game, understand how it works, apply ourselves, and in many cases, you already have the skill. So there's no new skill you need to learn per se, but it's now how to, all of the skills you have, how do you transfer and contextualize them into fundraising as an expertise? It's a different ballgame. All right. So there's a science and art to delivering that. But in most cases, 85% of the time, you already have what it takes. But you cannot just go into the industry the way you are currently designed. You're going to make a lot of mistakes, and you would short fall. I mean, you could literally be let out of the role after 3 months, because there's a nuance to the fundraising market that is also required to deliver the role. So, but then it's a supply side market. This is one of the areas in the UK that the industry is a supply side market. And what I mean by supply side is that when you, for instance, when you go on LinkedIn now to look to check a fundraising manager role, you will see a lot of people who have applied. So meaning that as a fundraiser, you can easily switch jobs, because charities are always needing money. And ideally, you need a full team, a full fundraising team, to make the most of your fundraising capabilities in any organization. In every team, you need at least 3 people. And then thinking about that in context to the shortfall of labor in that market, it generally means that the level of career mobility, positively speaking, now in the market is very high. You can easily switch roles. You can easily land a job, even if you're not too qualified, I mean, room can be made to take you in. I don't know if you get what I'm trying to say. You can easily grow within the role, and there are a lot of perks like that on the supply side of being, of finding a job as a fundraiser. And people don't really like, because it's money related. So it is not sales. Fundraising is not sales, by the way. Let me just create that caveat. It is putting your intelligence to use, your skill set, your writing skill set, and many other skill sets I'll talk about to raise money for an organization, either as an employee, as a consultant, or as a business person. Now, many do not understand it as such. There's not so much information out there. So this is one of the very diverse and critical information you're going to have. Now, another flip side to the fundraising bit is that you don't have a lot of young Black people like myself in the space. Trust me, I've been in so many fundraising meetings. I mean, with all sense of humility, I have met a lot of very senior elderly people there, white people, and they tell me you are the future. They tell me you're the future. I mean, there's funding everywhere. There's funding in your local council. There's literally everywhere you do, there's literally money, but nobody's accessing the money. There's funding in your local council. There are over 8,000 trusts and foundations. And we're talking about those trusts and foundations. I'm going to talk about the other verticals where there is funding, but it's mostly not made public. Now, number 4, it's very rewarding, especially if you bring diverse value to the market. Like I mentioned, most of you already have what we term diverse value or diverse skill sets. You probably know how to run programs, you know how to build a project, you know how to you understand client management services of relationship management, from your days in the banks and all of those spaces. You understand administration, you understand operations. These are different skill sets that if you bring it together, it would easily skyrocket your career as a fundraiser. Even if you don't work full-time, all of those skill sets will help you as a consultant when you're working with an organization as a fundraiser. But also, more importantly, what are the different fundraising verticals? And I was quickly speaking. Now, number 1, you have trust and foundations. Sorry, not grants. Trust and foundations. All right. And if you recall, when I started this session, I talked about there are over 8,000 trusts and foundations in the UK. All right. Now, trust and foundations is one of the fundraising vertical you'll find around. And this is the most popular. Trust and foundations are organizations who are structured legally to give money out to social enterprises or institutions who are working in communities or working in different thematic areas. And many social enterprises are set up to work in either different thematic areas or communities. So you see, many of us have heard of for instance, cancer research. Cancer research works in the cancer space. Macmillan works in the cancer space mostly for women and all of that. If you think of, I'm trying to think of as many as I can now. I don't want to mention my organization's name, but Mission 44 works in education. That's the Sir Lewis Hamilton charity. They work in education. So diverse charities are set up to work in thematic area based upon the interest of those who have set it up. So some people just say they want to change education for good, and they set up a charity in that space. Some people say they want to change legal access for good, and they set up a charity that enables just social justice, racial justice, and all that. Some people wake up and say, oh, they want to fight food security. They set up a charity to fight food security. You've heard of Trussell Trust. They are set up to alleviate hunger. So they do poverty alleviation, they do hunger alleviation, they also fight food security. And I'm going to come to those details as we go on. So there are trusts and foundations. Trusts and foundations are foundations who are set up to give charities money. Now, some of those trusts and foundations, they are also set up based on their own interests. So you see a trust and foundation who is set up and says that we only fund causes in education and climate change. You see another person who's set up and say we only fund causes in food security and women empowerment. Some people some trust and foundations will set up and say they want to fund causes in race equity and social justice. All right, so there are diverse trusts. So the 8,000 trusts and foundations I talked about are broken down across diverse thematic areas of interest and also community areas of interest. So as a fundraiser, you need to be able to know how to work around these intricacies. There are trusts and foundations who fund across the border, meaning they fund education work, but they also fund race equity. So there are some that you have to look at and say, okay, maybe let me combine an application to these two or to this particular person because he funds the intersection of education and women. So those are the tactics and many other, trade secrets that I have also come to build over the years. But to a large extent as well, trust and foundation is the most popular among all of them. And if you're looking for a job in fundraising, for instance, you'll see roles like fundraising officer, trust and foundations. So when people are being hired into roles, they're also hired based on those verticals. And when I talked about that the average fundraising team is about 3 to 4 persons, a lot of times what makes that team is diverse specialty in the different verticals. So as an individual on this call who wants to move into fundraising, you can choose to say, oh, I want to build expertise in trust and foundations. And that's where you do a lot of the bid writing, a lot of the grant writing, project conceptualization, and all of that. There's a lot of work there. So that place, a lot of people do work there, is the most popular, is the most concentrated, and is the most competitive. So even if we say, okay, there's a labor supply advantage, it's still the most competitive. Even if you get the job now, today, you get the job, and you start writing bids for your organization, you start conceptualizing bids, you realize that some of your bids will come back rejected because even the trust and foundation themselves, they are oversubscribed. So because it's the over competitive space, it's also the oversubscribed, but it's the easiest space to raise money as a charity and as a fundraiser. And every charity has a list of trusts and foundations they're always targeting. So the trusts and foundations you always have in your list. All right. So it now depends on where you want to play in. But the other bit is called, and I'll talk about a generic rule that'll help you define where you want to play in. There's the major donors. Major donors are your high net worth individuals. Those guys are hard to chase, hard to get, hard to build relationship. I mean, think of building a relationship with one HNI in your space, and all that. They are people who may have interest in something. So for instance, Sir Lewis Hamilton, the Formula One guy, after, and he stayed in the game though, but having built a successful career, he's passionate about education and supporting Black people in education. So he started a trust and foundation or a charity called Mission 44. Now, he is an HNI, but he has translated his HNI status or his donations or his philanthropy gain into a charity. Now, there are many HNIs who have the money, but they don't have a charity. But they are looking at legacy. They probably want to support women maternity or maternal health or infant health or child education, early years development. The opportunity in this space is so diverse. I'm not trying to sell it to you. God is my heart, but man, only if people know. Only if people know, and I also work in policy and programs. And for a while, I was trying to get some jobs and all that there to support my other consultancy stuff. But immediately I said, okay, you know what? Let me even take this my fundraiser and clean it up and apply. I applied for a job in April. I got it in May. I resumed in June. All right. So it's actually that fast. This is not grammar or trying to get excited and all that. The space is the space. People need money. Think about it. What's number one? If you have, I need money. Everybody doing for money. That's how it is. The charities start looking for money. So, but who is going to help them raise that money? They don't have the skill. So they're looking for ways. In fact, there are charities who share fundraisers. You see some fundraisers, they work in 2 different charities. as far as there's no conflict of interest between those two charities. So as a fundraiser, you can do multiple jobs. You can work part-time. So rather than I hear people who understand they need to hustle and survive. But people are now doing menial jobs, care shift and all that. It's fine if you need to do that for a while, no judgment. But the goal is to raise your ambition and aspiration to understand there is more. There is more. The space is less competitive. There is less diverse people playing there. So if you can get in, man, you can triple as much as you want to over a period of time. It doesn't happen overnight. But the major donors are basically HNIs who want to give to causes they are personally interested in, maybe off the back of their personal experience or their personal pain or their personal aspiration. You think about the people who have made money and they probably suffered during childbirth. They want to be able to support more women, that kind of thing. They give paying it forward. Unfortunately, that market is not as organized as the trust and foundation. So it's heavy on relationship management. All of them are heavy on relationship management, but that particular one is extremely because it's a market driven by trust. Then you have individual giving. Individual giving is, oh, gospel, we need 10 pounds. We are looking to support this charity and all that. Give us 10 pounds. In fact, individual giving, everybody does individual giving. The biggest charities or the smallest charities. Have you gone to spaces where you do something and they say, oh, £1 donation that goes to BBC Children in Need, £1 donation that goes to Macmillan Trust? Have you seen spaces like that? That is individual giving. That means you're trying to encourage the average common person to be part of the social cause. I mean, to be able to be an individual giving fundraiser, you have to be very good in campaign development. It's like marketing, like not marketing in the sense of going out to talk about things. It's about how do you develop a story that people can get compelled with and give you part of their money, their 50p, their 10p. If you go to buy fuel in the fuel station or in the gas station, there are, when you finish buying your fuel, you'll see things like, oh, add 10p for XYZ and all that. So individual giving is another part. So you see roles like fundraising officer, individual giving, fundraising manager, individual giving, fundraising manager, major donors, fundraising manager, trust and foundation. So diverse charities hire based off on the vertical. So you hire based on the vertical, and you can also hire based on the rank. So you can have a fundraising manager, trust and foundation. You can also have a fundraising officer, trust and foundation in the same team, by the way. So they have corporate partnerships. How can you get Santander to give you 100K for 1 year as a charity? And why should they give you 100K? So it's like a corporate partnership game, but it's a type of fundraising strategy and it also requires some form of skill set. Now, what determines where you should play? Number one, your strengths and skill sets. Particularly also looking at your transferable skills. If you're someone that loves writing, you love content, you love to ideate, think and just write, then you should be thinking of trust and foundation. If you're someone that likes to go to events, dinner, meet the rich, talk to them, convince them like me, you should be playing major donors. If you're someone that likes to convince people to be part of something, like you just like to convince the average person to be part of something you believe in. And there are people like that, you should look at individual giving. If you're someone that all your experience, you've worked with corporates, you have experience with marketing, you have experience with corporate sponsorships in your previous roles and all that, you should be looking at corporate partnerships. Now, this is where the trick is. If you choose to play in one area, you'll be limiting how far you can go in your journey. And if you look at it, if you reflect about what I've been saying since, under the fundraising verticals, the vertical focused roles only start and end from manager level downwards. But if you aspire to be a head of or a director of fundraising, you will need to be skilled in at least 3 of these things. Now, there's a 5th one I didn't add. It's called digital fundraising. It's like social media. It's like GoFundMe. That one is a crazy place to be with all sense of respect. How do you get people to give online when everybody is angry? You understand what I'm trying to say? So, but I'm not going to go too much into that. It's a lot of process. In fact, digital fundraising is a lot of skill. It's one place I'm actually honing my skill set in, and the promise is so immense. There are people who have developed softwares to help your digital fundraising journey. It's a different ballgame entirely. So each of these different verticals are institutions, are sub-industry segments themselves. It's just like when you think of retail, Tesco focuses on groceries. B&Q focuses more on furniture, gardening, and all those heavyweight stuff. what's the name again? Donem focuses on curtains, bed sheets, duvet, all those kind of stuff. So different retail outlets focuses on spaces and areas where they feel they want to play in. So, and that's how this is. So you need to also build a deep sense of expertise in each of the verticals. So if you want to go upwards in the career, I'm a head of fundraising and programs. Becoming head of is also a lot of work because it's a juggle between your years of experience and the diversity of your experience. So your years of experience in the fundraising game, then how much of those verticals are you good at? I'm very good in bid writing. I'm very good in project conceptualization. I'm very good in relationship management and all of this. So my skill sets cut across. But also, how valuable are those skill sets? So I don't just have skill sets in fundraising. I'm a policy guy. I'm a programs guy. I'm a strategy person. So I can then bring all those elements across those verticals. Then if you juggle that with my years of experience, the only thing I can settle for is a head off. I didn't figure it because it means that I will not be maximizing my skill set from a verticals diverse angle to the value addition angle to the years of experience angle enough. Now, just to also add to it, well, I'll come back there. But if you have questions, start populating in the chat box. What are transferable skills you need? Number one is writing. You see that writing is like the bread and butter of fundraising. If you don't know how to write, now I don't think there's anybody on the call who doesn't know how to write. Majority, 99% of us on the call should already know how to write. Now, if you already know how to write, 50% of your problem is already solved. That's why I say it's a transferable industry. Anybody can be a fundraiser. You don't need any degree to be a fundraiser. Actually, there's no qualification. They didn't ask me what qualification do you have in your interview. There's no qualification to be a fundraiser. That's the interesting thing about it. You don't need Prince 2, you don't need a PMP, you don't need one. This is do you know how to write? One. Two, research. Now, research is in levels, but if you have basic research skills, you can make it in the transfer. Now, I am an average researcher. For those who don't know, yeah, on this call, I'm a fundraiser, but I'm actually an economist. So and as an economist, my strands of skill sets are a bit stronger and vast. But again, in terms of pitching to where the opportunities in the industry are, that's why I'm also edging towards fundraising, but I'm also doing other things. But then as an economist, it means that I'm also skilled in advanced research. Now, you don't need to know advanced research. You just need to know how to structure a survey and push it out. And anybody can do that. All right. So basic research, how to look for information online, how to source for information, how to combine patterns and all those basic things. And if you know how to think, you can do research. That's another transferable skill. The third transferable skill is report writing. So it's not writing. Writing is writing. But you see, report writing is more organized. And many of us have written reports. You've written report, no matter how small. Even if it's WhatsApp broadcast, that's a report because it has to be organized in a particular way. so report writing is another one. Then project ideation. Many of us have done projects. Even if you've not done a standard project in corporate, have you planned your birthday party? Have you planned your niece's birthday party? That's a project. There's nothing, you don't need any, the only thing you need is these skills. How do they function in fundraising? That is the skill you need, not these skills. I don't know if you get what I mean. That's the skill set you need to be able to switch successfully. Because if you don't know it, you won't get the job. If you don't know it, when you get into the role, 3 months you're out. It's a role and it's an industry where it's heavy on results. So that is where the skills have to be able to refine into a level of expertise for you to be able to interact with the industry at scale. What are the terminologies? What are the lingos? Every day I talk to funders. I mean, when I talk to funders, I don't just talk to the grant maker. I talk to their CEOs, I talk to their directors. So there's a language, first of all, that funders want to hear to be confident that this guy, because if you're a head of, for instance, like me, you need to be able to speak the language of the funder. One, you need to speak the language of the thematic area or the problem area that funder is funding. You see, there are two different communication now. So for instance, the communication I work for now with Black civil rights, race equity, equitable opportunity, social inclusion, social justice, social inequality. There are jargons that I must talk through or talk with or talk about, and it must make sense as a conversation in an intelligent way that it validates my role as a head of. So that the funder doesn't look at you and say, no, this guy is not serious. I want to talk to the CEO. And also, in some organizations, they don't have directors, they don't have head of. They only have fundraising manager. Now, if as the fundraising manager, the funder is not confident talking to you, or does not derive confidence and is not at ease talking to you, you are already losing money. So it's not until you write the bid that the money comes in. From your conversation, from your relationship management, from how your email is structured, from how you are, presenting your case from a fundraising perspective, talking to a funder. All right. If you're not on your A game, you're already losing money. So you don't start losing money when they reject an application. You can start losing money from how you are talking, how you are engaging. So it's not just you know how to write or do research, or you have experience in administration or in operation or programs. What are the lingos? What are the thinking elements? How do you drive a conversation with the funder that the funder feels prepared to further that conversation and give you money? To give somebody money is a lot. And I'm not talking about, for example, in my role, I'm not talking about 100K. I'm talking about 700K. I'm talking about 1 million for 3 years. So why should somebody give you £1 million? You need to be talking. As in, that conversation needs to be at a level where it is consistent. And because these funders are also, many funders, they are constantly also, because they are giving out monies, and they need to be sure they're giving monies to people who are doing work correctly, properly, they can trust and all that. They also hire people who know so well about the ecosystem. They also hire people who know so well about the funding. So every day I talk to directors of funds. Now, when those guys are talking, they are very intelligent. They know what they're looking for. Now, they have a lot of blind spots because they are not executing at community level. They're not talking to the everyday people. They're not delivering systemic change. So they are biased. There's a funder bias as well, which is a skill you need to know as somebody who is playing in the employee space or who is working as a consultant. You need to know their biases so you can use it against them. Those are part of what things that build credibility. On the other side of things, you can also work as a grant maker. But a lot of times, you cannot be a good grant maker if you've not been successful in fundraising. I don't know if you get what I mean. So the industry is divided into two. So think of marketing communications. You can either be the agency that is delivering the marketing campaign, or you are the Unilever who is awarding the agency the contract. I don't know if you get. So the Unilever here are the funders who is giving out the monies. The charities are the agencies who are doing the work. All right. But many times you shouldn't. Many times you need to work as a fundraiser in a charity enough so that maybe later in your career you can switch and say, well, I want to become a director of grants with Macmillan Trust, for instance. All right, then you can then switch. But then if you now become a director of grants, it will be expected that you understand how what fundraisers think. You understand how funding is being utilized for social projects. So you can also switch across the board as well, or you can choose to stay on the on the head of fundraising and directorship role and all of that, on the employee bit, as the case may be. Then relationship management and industry understanding the industry is also very crucial. Now, other things that other skill sets you need to have that will also further power your start is you need to build storytelling skills. All right, storytelling is a major thing. It's not just about writing a grant. There's a way the grant will flow that will build conviction in a. I've written so many bids that I know that project is not really strong. The project is not really solid. There's nothing new about this project. But because of the way it was written, the funder fell in love with the project. You see funders giving a lot of money to project that what are you doing in this project? But because of the way the bid was written, because of the promise of that bid, so you need storytelling skills. You need to be able to pick a problem and make a case for why someone should give you 1 million for 3 years to solve that problem, when you're not the only one solving it. You understand? You're not the only one solving it. There are a lot of people who can solve it better than you. But why should you be the one, collecting £1 million from me to solve that problem in 3 years, across 3 years? Sorry. Yeah. Then secondly, you need to know funding sources and the dynamics of how those sources work. You need to fine-tune your writing skills. Sorry for this. My son is sorry about this.
Sorry, before
Sorry
you go
about
on, Mr. Gospel, before you go on to the funding sources, I just wanted to ask if anybody has any question specifically. There's a question which I've answered. Maureen wanted to know more about, mentorship and the training course, which you will cover anyway. I've said to her that you'll cover that. But is there anybody else here that where we are now? Is there any questions? Okay. Yeah. Morenica is just saying that she has training. I mean, she has experience in crowdfunding. Is that the same as what you said? Is that the same as duty fundraising you said?
digital fundraising. Yeah, that experience will come in very handy in digital fundraising. But
What did you call it? Sorry, is it detail or duty?
digital
Digital fundraising. Okay.
So, but digital fundraising is way broader than that. But that
All right.
experience will help you. So for
Okay.
you now, Morenike, one low-hanging fruit is to just go into digital fundraising.
Okay.
One low-hanging fruit is to just go into digital fundraising. And digital fundraising is one of the least explored out of the verticals.
Okay.
And yeah, so it's on a borderline with digital marketing. And so it's digital marketing and fundraising, basically. All right. So, but I'll speak about that later. So when do you start generally? Does experience matter? Yes, experience matters. But what matters more is the diversity of your experience, the quality of it. So when I talk about diversity, I'm talking about across the verticals. When I talk about quality of the experience, I'm talking about the number of years, for instance, or the depth of work you've done across those verticals. When you talk about value as well, value could mean the other affiliated skill sets that will help you succeed as a fundraiser. Now, this is the trick, and I'm going to be very honest about my story. I have barely done 3 years in fundraising, but I'm already ahead of. So many times, the employer will look at everything to make the decision. Now, very broadly, you all know, I mean, we all know, years of experience is a big thing in the UK, yeah? But in fundraising, it's slightly different. And especially if you're looking for a head of role and above. So if you're a head of, if you're a head of, and you probably have 3-year experience, let me just say it the way it is. If you have 3 years experience and less, or if you have less than 1 year experience or 1 year, 18 months experience, you should be looking at a fundraising manager, so fundraising officer role. If you have 2.5 to 4 years experience-ish or 5, you should be looking at the fundraising manager role. But if you have 5-year experience to 6 years in my head of role, 7 years and above to 10 is a director role. Now, me, I'm very honest with you, I have 3 years, but I couldn't do a manager role because rather than play on my years of experience, I played on the diversity of my experience and the quality of my experience. And that's what you need at a head of role, because at a head of and a director role, you are not really writing the bids. You are doing more strategy. You're doing more of ideation. You are going for meetings. You are thinking of the organization's fundraising strategy and pathways. You are paying attention to the news, looking at information across different sources to be able to tell exactly where is the industry going and how should this organization, based off on the work we do, how should we begin to position? That's what makes you ahead of. In my organization, there is no director. I'm the boss starts at heads with me, then the CEO. So many organizations, they don't recruit directors, they will just go for head because it's also cheaper for them. Many organizations, they have director and head. That's mostly the cancer research and co who have a lot of money. But even those who have a lot of money now, they just stop at heads because from the heads, they can get to promote that head to become a director. So at the end of the day, it's not so much about your years of experience. It's about how well diverse are you across the verticals. Especially if you have examples to talk around them, if you have examples to share in your interviews and all that. And then how much of affiliated skill sets do you have, like programs? If you are very good in programs, you're very good in projects, you're very good in strategy, you're very good in growth ideation, you're good in operations, those things, if you have those things, you should be targeting a head of role. Now, the trick about it again is that I have 3 years experience driving for the head of role. But if you have 0 experience and you have all these diverse skill sets, I would say you pitch yourself from the fundraising manager role. Because again, you have 0 experience, but you're switching. pitch yourself on the fundraising manager role, then get some other part-time gigs to support. All right, so that you can also beef up your experience. Now, if you do that for a year or 18 months, you can pitch for a head of role easily. Or if you are very, very confident and audacious like me, just go straight for the head of role. Actually, this particular role, I went for the director role. So they told me, you only have 3 years now. So, but so that's okay, fine, let's do head of. So, so it's also about how you're able to sell that diversity and the value of your experience. I told them literally, I can literally interpret a customer's policy and tell you how that policy impacts fundraising. Someone who's not an economist cannot do that. So there are fundraisers and there are fundraisers with all sense of immunity. Now, I've met a fundraiser.
Sorry to cut you. I've got a question just to, as you're talking there about the entry level. Now, when you started the presentation, you gave a couple of the profiles of different people. Now, for people that are just coming into the country, it could be from anywhere in Africa or even from the US, just coming into the UK fresh. What is the entry level?
So that's also very relative. So that's also very, so for people who are coming to the country, and I'm going to say the exception, most times when people like that probably get a 28, 35K jobs, they're okay. I've seen a lot of people who with a 35K per year job, they are okay. With a 30K, 32K, they are okay. Now, the kind of role I'll give you that will be a fundraising officer role. And quite frankly, because you're coming to the country, you don't have experience, a UK experience working in fundraising. That may be a fair place to start. In all fairness, that may be a fair place to start. But where my challenge is with that mostly is ambition and growth. You must have ambition and growth, and you must aggressively yearn to go up. Now, if you're looking at the fundraising manager role, you're looking at from 40K to 48K. The industry relatively pays well, especially if you find charities who are financially buoyant. Now, a head of will take 55 to 62, 65. A director will do 65 to like 75. And most director or heads of in fundraising can easily pitch for a CEO job in the social enterprise, because the social enterprise game is about how much money you bring and how much project you can deliver. So it's just like banks. The people who easily rise to become the CEO of a bank are most likely the CFOs. The CFOs are, they have higher chances of becoming the next CEOs. So the heads of fundraising or the director of fundraising, so if you're just coming to the country, if you do the math, it pays off starting off as a fundraising officer, and you also know you don't have UK experience, so you're starting off fresh, but you're giving yourself time to build stuff. You'll get a pay slip every month. It's a standard job, and that's way better than going to having to take care shift, menial stuff, which is fine if you need to do that when you just come in. But be ambitious enough to know that you can be easily cleaning off 35K grand every year. Or let's just say worst case, it's too bad, 28, 30. So, and with that, if you do that for 6 months, 8 months, and you start building your knowledge and all that, and if you choose to do trust and foundations, focus on that deeply so that you can probably use that pathway to rise to become a fundraising manager. But once you are entry managers and my entry manager role, you would easily hit 40K, 42K, 45K per year. So technically, anybody who is coming to the country now in 18 months can easily become a fundraising manager. These things is about information and about training, contextualizing the expertise and all of that, knowing industry and all that, and how the social enterprise landscape really works. So you need to know how it works, to know how fundraising works in that space and all that. And then you can then begin to move higher in the career progression like that. Now, let me give you some cases and then I'll explain in terms of how trainings can work. So I've got it like a training program, and I work with Madam for that to also deliver that for people who are interested in that, building the expertise and working across the career lines, because those career lines are very sensitive. Most times, the one thing you will hear in your day one as a fundraising manager or fundraising anybody when you come to your role, they will tell you what the income target is for that, what the income target for that year is. And that can be very, very depressing in your day one. So that's why one of the best routes to go is just to go diverse, but I'll come to that shortly. Let me give you some examples. So there's a Boots Macmillan model. All right, we all know Boots. They do pharma care and beauty care. Then you know Macmillan Trust, they do cancer and all that. Now, they've they've used corporate partnership. This is a corporate partnership model, by the way, that I'm talking about. This is not trust and foundations. I've talked about trust and foundations a lot. It's about grant writing and all that. But again, let me put a caveat to that. What it is not really much about the project you want a funder to fund. It's more about what the funders are willing to fund. So you have to be able to also look at funding guidelines, funding priorities, funding direction. In fact, there's a website where if you want to apply for a particular fund from a funder, you can go and check the kinds of project that funder has funded and who he or she, who they have funded in time past. And then you need to be able to contextualize what are the gaps in this funding journey, and then you position your application that way and all that. So it's not so much about, you know, what your idea is, but also how does your project strategically fit in the context of the funder's interest. Which is why you can see some charities may slightly veer from their objective and all that just because when they get money. There are excess areas to those things. But you also need to be able to tell, because the trick is not really about what you want to do. It's about what the funder wants to fund, how you can find the middle ground, and how you can position your, that's why project ideation is sometimes a much more important skill than a writing skill, with all sense of humility. Because if you're ahead of, for instance, I'm ahead of, I do more ideation, then somebody down, the manager or the officer down on the hierarchy gets to write the bid. So I will then look at the bid to ensure that the ideation or whatever we've ideated, the whole bid and all that is going in the flow of convention. I'm looking at it from a program lens, I'm looking at it from a funder. So it's a very strategic role. You know, and that's why you need to have multiple, your skill set has to be diverse to deliver roles at that level. All right. So Boots and Macmillan, what did they do? Boots does pharmacy and beauty care. Macmillan takes care of cancer patients, you know, and the advice and support and all that. People are being diagnosed and all that. Shout out to Flo. I think she's on the call, man. Flo, respect to you. So what they've successfully done here is that Boots funds Macmillan off the back of corporate sponsorship or corporate partnerships. And then Macmillan trains the pharmacist at Boots to improve their ability to not diagnose, actually, to administer medication support to cancer patients. You can see that through pharmacare. Now, on the beauty care angle, Boots have also run lots of initiatives where people who have gone through chemotherapy and they've got their hair shaved and all that, you know, they're able to also do makeup for them, show them what products work for them and all that. And people can get to build their confidence again off the back of that healing process and all that. So what does he do? Boots, Macmillan gets to raise money by virtue of that corporate partnership with Boots. Boots is then seen as a stronger reputational brand in terms of brand reputation now than its competitors, because they're now delivering better medication support to women and cancer patients. They are now supporting people who are, you know, going through chemotherapy and all that. So it sort of strengthens their brand equity, their brand value. So if you look at it from both ends, more people are trooping into Boots to buy products from Boots because they are seen from that social consciousness standpoint. And Macmillan is raising more money. So it's like a Peter and Paul relationship kind of thing. Let's talk about Deliveroo and Trussell Trust. And this is like the most interesting one that many people may be more familiar about. Deliveroo is that app where you order food from. And if you look at these apps, Uber Eats, Deliveroo, Just Food, when you try to order food from them from that app, after when you're trying to check out, you see that the component will say add 10p to XYZ, or give a 2p or £2 tip off, and all of those things. So what Trussell Trust did was, in every Deliveroo order, they've embedded an option for people to give 10p to alleviating poverty and solving food security challenges within the UK. Now, with that alone, Trussell Trust have raised almost £3 million from that Deliveroo platform. So the next time you go to filling station and you're ordering food and you see those things, somebody somewhere, you know, so they are different. If you walk into Tesco, you see an aisle by BBC Children in Need where they sell baby dolls and all that. When you buy those things, it goes as donation into BBC Children in Need. And those donations are used to support charities who are working at the local level. Now, somebody thought of that. All right. So as a fundraiser, you understand that, and this is just corporate. This is corporate. So I'm just trying to tell you what is obtainable there. you know, and this is also outside writing grants and other. So as a fundraiser, there are loads and loads and loads of possibilities in this space. I've shared a bit of my story. I've done 650K in the last 10 months. Recently, I did 225K for a major church in London for 3 years. They're in the process. That conversion is currently happening right now for them to solidify the process. You know, things are happening. I think I rose 70K for a food bank project in 3 months for another major church in London. How do you finish 70K in 3 months to do food bank? You know, that's, you know, so currently now I manage a portfolio of 150. These are not just, you know, made up numbers. The project I oversee in my day jobs, we raised funding for each of them, and all of them have their own and all. So you also need to know, what does it mean to work with a funder? How do you raise money for projects? You know, how do you interpret a funder's contract? You know, in fundraising, there are two types of funding. There's unrestricted and restricted. There's a lot to talk about, so I can finish it on this call. Many charities prefer to go for unrestricted. Some charities prefer to go for restricted. Restricted funding, those are the type of things you need to know when you're talking to a funder. If a funder come and say, oh, we have 200K, you need to know what that 200K means and what that 200K will do for the organization you represent. If you can't talk through those things with a funder, they'll look at you, who is this rookie that you're sending to me, you know, and all that. So part of the part of what also improves your chances of promotion in the game is being able to talk to funders, take those commitments. It can be slightly scary, but they're human beings like you know, and their work is to give you money. And actually, they need to finish that money before the end of the year. There is also what they call discretionary funds from a funder. So how do you build a relationship with a funder that he or she can dip into discretionary? Discretionary funds are funds that are not within the defined financial year. But I'm not going into that. So I've served over 30 clients in trying to, you know, do this and all that. But fundraising is not even my core, by the way. You know, I've just been able to.
How long have you been in fundraising? I think you mentioned something around
yeah, I
that.
mentioned that 3 years. You know,
Okay.
3 years.
Brilliant. Yeah.
And so I'm not the most experienced like you think in years of experience. But within those 3 years, what I've done is I've leveraged on my skill set to go diverse really fast. And that has also helped me to build a portfolio of fundraising, and I've had a lot of successes.
Well done.
A lot of rejections, you know, say to say.
Yeah.
One of the major things as a fundraiser you must know is how to handle rejection. How do you handle the client who is disappointed? You know, stuff like that. So these are major things. And also to put that caveat out there, funders know when you're using ChatGPT to write your bids. So how do you need to be able to be very, you need to come up very original in your content. You know, so if you're doing food bank, almost everybody is doing food bank. So why should I give you 500K to do food bank for 2 years, to run your food bank for 2 years, when I can give that money to someone else? So it's a part of the skill set. So part of what I've done is to have cascaded the support and engagement in such a way that there are about 3 to 4 options. So there's an online course I told Madam Fola yesterday when we were speaking on the phone that I'm launching. So it's only £50. You can join the waiting list. I'll put the link in the bio. So not bio, rather, in the chat box.
Yeah.
So it's basically now giving you the raw, you know, why fundraising is a good career path. You know, what are the career paths to fundraising, the fundraising job market. See that job market alone. Where do you find the jobs? How do you apply? How do you write your CV? How do you write the cover letter? What are the things you need to talk about? When you go for the interviews, what do they want to hear? Most times when a fundraiser is coming to a role, 2 or 3 people will likely interview them. The head of finance will interview you. If there is a director or a head of, and you're coming in as a fundraising manager, that director will also interview you. Then in many cases, the CEO will also interview you. But if you're coming in as a head of and a director, trust me, the chair of the board will interview you as well. Because you are bringing in money. The goal is for you to bring in money. So you need to know if. So how do you talk to people like that? What do they want to hear? How do you pass the interviews? Where do you find the jobs? How do you spread your options so that you're not putting all your eggs in one basket? And what's the potential for you to scale? When you land the job, what do you do in your first 3 months? Those first 3 months can be very depressing and lonely. And let me also sound a caveat here. In the social enterprise industry, fundraisers are number 1 on the list when it comes to mood swings, depression, and all those things. So it's not, and let me not make it sound like it's all rosy, but to be quite frank, there are ways to work around it. So when you land the job, what do you do in your first 3 months? That is very crucial. And many people, when they get into a job in the first 3 months in fundraising, they are so clueless because many times you get, most organizations don't have a structure for that role. They don't have a structure for that function. So how do you build a fundraising function ground up? I have built a fundraising function ground up twice in 2 different organizations now, and I can tell you it's not a joke, you know, and there are sometimes there could be different gravity or different levels to the kind of commitment required from you as a newbie in the function to build that function ground up. And as you're coming into that function, you are distracted. Let me tell you, as a fundraiser, outside the CEO, you have the most challenging job in the role in the organization, the most challenging, because you don't bring in the money. If you don't bring in the money, that charity will be bankrupt in the next 1 year. So what are the key things you need to know that before you even start the job? So for a fundraiser, for instance, when you go for an interview and they ask you, do you have any questions for us? What are the questions you must ask them so that you know if it's a mentally safe space for you to resume or to, get running with and all that? So there are questions you need to be able to ask in the interview stages. There are questions you need to ask you need to find answers to when you start the role, because it's a very tricky role. And that's why there are more people who are available. No, not really, but there are more roles to fill than there are people available. I don't know if you get, so people are always moving roles. The level of mobility in the fundraising industry is so high that there is almost a vacancy somewhere. All right. So you need to know that. And then the bonus, I'm going to give you templates, email templates, CV templates, cover letter templates, job questions templates, and all that. That's what that's what we have at 150 package. For that. Then there's a 500 package where you'll get the online access, or actually not really online access, everything that, because I taught the thing online, I can teach it to you privately one-on-one, so you don't need to go online. So, but this one is a private coaching for 4 hours, 2 hours per week for 2 weeks, and I would run you through everything you need to know on the job market. But if you want to diversify, which is the best way to go as a fundraiser, diversify through the verticals and diversify through the career route, which means that you want to go into consultancy, you just want to start a business. There are more things you will now need to know. The UK fundraising market, the ecosystem, how it works, then the fundraising sources and how those sources can determine your successes or failures. Then within the context of those sources, how do you strategize your applications and all that? Where do you find the funders, and all that? So it's a £500 package for 2 weeks. And yeah, that. Then you have the 1K package for a month. That is 2 hours each week for a month, which is 8 hours. Now, one thing I've added here is client sourcing management and successful fundraising engagement. This is very critical. Not every client you see or that knocks at your door, that texts you, that calls you, that you have to work with. There are things you need to do. Due diligence is a big deal in fundraising. Agreements and all those things are very crucial. How do you protect yourself? How do you collect your money? How do you... And here, I will also, apart from your application, I will also review your application. All right. So when you write a bid, I'll review it. I'll review your bids for you, make corrections. You can literally hone your grant writing skill sets in our one-on-one meetings, which is why I try to do it for this package upwards, because for you to take this package, it means you are very sincere with yourself and you are very committed to the long haul. So I will review your bids, tell you, because the thing with bids is a very tricky thing. I will write a bid, Fola could write a bid, anybody else could write a bid, but you realize that they would all be vetted differently. So on this personal coaching board, I also let you know what are the criteria through which bids are assessed. All right, because at the end of the day, you will submit a bid. So even if you're trying to get a corporate to sponsor you, you've gone for your coffee meetings, they've already aligned, you already have a sense how much they're going to give to you and all that. You will then need to still put in a bid. It's like a formal ask with that project or that proposal that you've agreed on. So, and there are diverse ways to do these things. There's a trick to it. Now, if you notice, I said when I started this course, this conversation today, that a lot of people apply for grant opportunities. The conventional way is, you found a grant and then you apply for that grant. But those grants are already oversubscribed, they are overly competitive, and the grant makers themselves are already challenged in picking who to give what and why. Now, there's a different tactics to it, which is reasons why the bigger charities seem to make more money or raise more money faster than the smaller charities. It's like a rich becoming richer kind of thing. There's a different tactics to it, trust me. It was when I started working for a big charity, I realized that there's a different ball game to the way a Macmillan Trust and cancer research raise money. It's not from the way somebody in my borough would raise the money. I tell you, there are different tactics. So part of what we also do here is to show you what are the different tactics, and you can start using those tactics for smaller charities. And again, when you start going that order, the funder gets to see the small charity as someone who is ambitious to play long term. And a lot of people get scared of funders. They push the funder away. Once you collect the money, you run away. But those funders want to become your friends. They want to. It's a lot of relationship management. And if you can do it right, trust me, before a funding, there are 3 funding opportunities that have not been generated. I already know about them. But I can't even tell anybody. So it only favors the community of people that I know that need it and I trust. So I'm having conversations with those funders and I'm preparing that pipeline. So those are tactics. So again, and that's up to the consultancy bit. There's a 1-5-2 months thingy. That's a full-fledged on everything. How do you make profit from fundraising? That one, it talks about billing. Billing is a major part. How do you, and this one is majorly for people who are looking at consultancy and contracts. How do you bill for your fundraising? How do you make money from that? How do you, you're writing the bid and you've charged them for the bid. How do you even charge? What are the skills to charging? And when you charge, how do you make money from it? And how do you go long term to be able to make more money from a particular opportunity you've locked in successfully for a client? So this is a lot more robust. What I also do here is in that coaching, I help the individual. I stick to that individual till they get their first success.
Okay.
Because the problem with that is that it can be a very long, lonely journey, of rejections, especially when you're just starting. I had a lot of rejections when I started, and I really didn't have anybody to talk to. But here we'll have constant reviews. So it's more than just the 2 months thing. It can literally stretch about 3 months because the goal is for you to land your first success. I also do this for businesses to help businesses land their first successful grant, and all that. And those grant monies are there, like I mentioned when I started the session. Another thing I do in the 1-5 package is I will introduce you to professional sources, professional materials, network, elite network, by the way, dinners and events, networking events and all that. I'll share all that with you so that you can sign up to all of them and you can have crunch time access to what's going on in the industry and all that. Then
Sorry, before you go on that one, I've got a question on that one. So when you say sign up for dinners and networking, do you have to pay for this or are they free?
Some of them are free based off on your membership status with those organizations.
Okay.
And and all of those things, when you have all those elite involvement, that is also and I didn't see that in the beginning till I got to this point. That is also what strengthens your pitch when you're looking for a head of and director role. Nobody wants to hire someone that doesn't know anybody or don't know the spaces to go to raise money. I don't know if you get what I mean. So there are places where funders meet, there are events where there are networks where they belong to and all that. So I will give you the links to all these networks. And then another thing again is
sorry, before you go on, because I'm looking at the time as well. Sorry, there is a question on the chat. Can a remote fundraising position be acquired by those still in Nigeria?
Yes. Oh, very much. So that's another spin-off. If you're looking to move to the UK or you're looking to make money in dollars or in pounds and all of that. And by the way, fundraising is not just a UK thing. It's heavy in the US, it's heavy in Canada, it's heavy in Africa. So that's part of what I was talking about. I was talking about funding sources and how to navigate it. So if you live in Nigeria, for instance, you can easily start making money in your DOM account and use that money in case you plan to leave Nigeria. Stack up that money after a period of 6 months to leave Nigeria. So rather than looking for Naira to change, you've already made the money working remotely.
Come on.
And you can literally, there are many ways you can, go about that. So, so that's it. And then
please, can you put that link in the chat? Can you copy and put it in the chat?
So it's also a feedback link for the session. And then you can also use that link to pick which of the options you want. If you want to be on the waiting list for the course, that link serves that purpose. If you want to pick any of the packages, that link also serves that purpose. Another thing I wanted to add for the 1-5 package is that, I talked about research, basic research, you're fine. But when you start when you're a head of or a director, they expect you to also have advanced research capabilities. That technically means, so for instance, now, if a funder is giving you 700K split over, let's assume 250K for 3 years. They are going to make heavy demands on the impact evaluation bit of that project. So if you're on the call and you're really aspiring to go head off and above, the 1.5 package should be what you're looking at, because you also need to be able to hone into the research capabilities you need to master quickly. So it's sort of stretching you, a bit further down on your transferable skills to say, these are advanced ways you can, evaluate impact. This is how you measure impact and all that. Those things are part of what goes into your bid. Those are the things you discuss with the clients in your informal meetings. So they have a sense of you're thinking about the fund, you're thinking about the project, you have it all figured out. So you can't just come to a funders meeting as a head of a director and you're just talking the fund, give us money, give us money, give us money. I know someone like that. And when you begin to go in that way, they will get discouraged and get disconnected. But the funder wants to journey with you. In many cases now, there's what you call a co-creation model. They want to co-create with you. And the challenge with co-creation is that you will now have to show that you are very skilled in other affiliated areas that will make that fundraising drive a success. So your skill set, your advanced skill set, your advanced storytelling skills, your report writing skills, your program management skills have to really be honed in. And those are many of the things we'll be discussing in one-on-one.
Yeah, thank you so much. I mean, this is really mind-blowing. This is powerful. This is good stuff, people. And we really appreciate you, Mr. Gospel. Thank you for spending the time here. Now, I think that there will be people that have questions. People already asked questions, and you've given so many scenarios of what could happen. The key for me that I'm taking away is ambition. Okay? You have to have the ambition to drive this. So for those that are looking for work, you've been looking for work of 3 6 months, 1 year, what are you waiting for? Get into this, okay? And give yourself 2 years. You've got people around that will hold your hands and get these things done. So I really want to encourage everyone, if you've been here, we've got the video, the recording. So if you want the recording, I'm just going to quickly just share that on the platform. But please, I'm going to open it up now for questions because I really want everybody. Are you in a hurry to go?
I could take some questions.
Okay, please. We want to really ask you as many questions as we can. I can see OBA, God bless you, ma. I've got a 2:30 meeting. Are you going to be around so you can sort of anchor the question time for us? If you can you unmute? I can't hear you on mute.
Somebody's asking if I help with raising money for charity projects. Yes, I do that. So like I mentioned, as a consultant and as a business, separate from my employees. I'm just looking at questions.
Okay, let's look at the questions. You can raise your hand as well to ask questions. I think we need to have you back to come and talk to us about digital fundraising, please. We need, if you are keen to have a session on digital fundraising, please raise your thumbs up here so that we can have the next session to focus on digital fundraising. I can see one hand, Kemi, yes. I'm putting mine up. Please put yours up. Yes, I can see hands up, Please, we need you. We need you back. We need you back. We need to know about digital fundraising. There's a lot of things. We can see hands up now. You can see all the hands up there. So we really need to know more about how we can.
Although if you're interested to sign up for any of the things, any of the packages I've listed outside the 500 one from 1K above, you can also make some specific ask. Then I would do a tailored support for you as well, including the ones I listed. So just saying that, but I'll be back here to talk about digital fundraising.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? I think Obia, I know you are busy. I think you are somewhere, right? You can nod. Yes, I can see that you're busy. Segi, are you there? If you can. Okay, we're going to be wrapping up now if there are no questions, but the video, if you need the video link. Yeah, Morenike, you want to say something, Morenike, please go ahead. And then Flo after that. Morenike, go ahead. You need to unmute. Or are you just asking, you're just raising your hand for the digital fundraising? Yeah, Morenica, you can go ahead if you've got a question.
Hi.
Go on, yeah.
Yeah, sorry. No, So I was saying that my question wasn't actually answered. Thanks for this program. I was just giving an example. When I mentioned digital fundraising, I was just giving an example of what I've done. And I've also done fundraising for in the workplace for funds being sent to nationwide charity here in the States. But my main question is, I said, I'm looking to transition out of my current, I'm a lawyer and I'm also a writer. And I've been looking at executive positions here in the United States, and I see that a lot of them require fundraising experience. I'm not necessarily interested in performing a fundraising role, but I was just thinking to make myself more marketable. I do have some translatable skills, especially listening to you talk. And I was just wondering whether there are resources that can help me in honing my skills so that if I was to apply for such a position, I would know, basically what to say to convince them that I'm the right person for the role. So that's my real question.
Yes, thank you very much for the question. Yeah, it wasn't quite explained that way, but I get it now and I understand. So I think it will be a case of you talked about managing funding around the legal elements and all that. So you want to also position that story focusing on that, what was the size of the funding that you managed? What was the funding for? And in the US is actually way more advanced in fundraising than the UK in terms of how much monies are being given. And that's another thing that also get talk about in the private session with anybody who's interested. If you're supporting anybody raising money, you need to find a way to get into the US. There's a certification you will need and all of those things. I'll talk about that. But then to answer your question, talk about the project. Now, you may not have been the fundraiser, but you were part of the process. So talk about the process as part of the team who delivered that process, and then also establish the fact that on the legal elements, the contractual elements, and all that, any fundraiser or any institution already knows that. I mean, one of the major big bits about fundraising is legal due diligence and all that. So infuse that element in your story. Let it have its own standalone 2, 3, 4, 5 bullet points. Talk about it in your interviews. Have a paragraph talk about it in your cover letter, so that they also see that you have a fundraising experience. It's about the experience, not really if you were the head of or anything, but what you really did. What was the funding for? How did you measure the impact? Who were the beneficiaries? How did you deliver it? How did you communicate or manage the relationship with the funder? Those are the very strong lines that people are always interested in. Yeah. I don't know if it answers your question.
Yeah, thank you. To some extent, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, happy to take more questions within the time we
I think Flo had her hand up.
Yeah.
No, I was raising my hands for the digital thing. Well done. It's an absolutely fantastic session.
Hello,
and
Madam.
Even me, I'm wanting to sign up now.
Good to hear your voice on this side.
Yeah, how do you gospel?
I'm very fine, ma'am. Thank you.
I'm going to hand over to Lady Segi now. Okay, Lady Segi, over to you to wrap up with questions. Thank you so much.
Wonderful session.
Hi.
To everyone. I'm sure we'll be signing up. I know I'm going to sign up. I'm sure everyone else will as well. But quick question. You did talk a lot about fundraising. You de-emphasized bid writing in terms of bid writing for not just raising funds, but getting like public sector work and things like that. Is that part of what you would cover?
Bid writing from public sector.
Yes. So
yes. Yes. So on one end, if there are elements you want me to cover, in the coaching program and all that, I'm happy to add it to it. So I'm not going to be restrictive on that, flow. However, there is a lot. In fact, there is so much amount of monies from the UK government, covering. And that's one thing I was going to say. If most of you here on the call are UK citizens already, you have a business running, you know who runs a business and all that. Now, based off on the business sector, there's always a government parastatal, that oversees regulations and all that. Now, in many cases, they have a grant pause to support businesses in different sectors, or very broadly, social enterprises in the sectors, that support the work they do. So there is lots and lots of government funding available in grants. Now, on the flip side, there's also lots of low single digit government loans available. You know, people are always scared of loans, but because they are low single digits, they are usually for a longer period of time, and you have a lot of, you know, breathing space to do that. There's also grants or funding support that also take into consideration tax breaks, tax credits, and all those things. So there are different ways to leverage what government has in store. But in terms of grants, the UK government does. And one of the things I also add and say is, if you run a business and you're looking to get funding from the UK government, for instance, you also want to ensure that you are, quote unquote, politically or socially correct. So what I mean is there are sectors that the UK government is really paying attention to now: sustainability, net zero, food security, healthcare. You know, those are big thematic areas for the Starmer's administration. So in as much as he is contracting the economy, he's also pushing lots of funding in those areas, because public infrastructure spending and all that, you know, housing, construction, and all that. So, and also you also want to think about the intersectionalities around those areas and affiliated areas. So for instance, you think of construction, you want to think of sustainability, ESG, environmental friendliness, and all that. So if you have a business that pitches on each of these sectors or on the intersectionalities, you would qualify for many of the grants. So even if you don't have a business where you're thinking of starting up something, that's a very good strategy to take, or a good path to take. And then I can walk you through many of the opportunities there.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? Just see if there are any other hands raised. Do we have a deadline? Is there a deadline for payment?
No.
These
There is
courses?
none. There's
And
none
when do they
actually.
start?
Yeah, there's none actually. So once that link is being filled, I will definitely reach out, and then instrumentals are also welcomed in. Yeah, but based off on the package actually.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Adiola, I think Adiola raised her hand.
Okay, Adiola, yes, Adiola has raised her hand. Please go ahead, Adiola.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, afternoon, Adiola.
Thank you, Gospel, for that session. And thank you to everyone else that organized this. Really enlightening. I've just had a look at the form that you sent. My interest is actually on raising funds for a community project. Which of the, because you've got...
Which of the categories?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let me just send you my email, because that was strictly for the options. Apologies.
Okay.
Let me send my email here.
Do you want to send it to...
Let me just send it to everyone, just in case.
Okay, thank you. That makes it easy.
Yeah, I'll send you my email here. So I do responding for charities, but but the thing is, I'm gradually getting overwhelmed there. Let me be very honest. So
okay.
I have so much on my charities on my plate to support in that area. Reasons why I'm trying to do more of this training, so that more people can be empowered to do it themselves. But of course, if I do it for you, it's going to be lesser time and all that. Another thing I'm also trying to do is, not in this case now, if for anybody who is also signing up for any of the coaching packages, especially for the 1K and above, part of it is also to train you on how to write for yourself, and then I will walk through that process with you till you're successful. That means I'll review the bids, review your structure, review everything and all that, and then you can then just submit, and I'll be on the journey with you till you get it out successfully. And if you can do it that way, you can also do it for others. So you can actually start doing it as a business, as a side hustle, as a part-time gig, anything. So I'm just trying to say there's a lot of money. To even start with, a lot of churches who need money for their food bank. So if you think about it from there alone, that's a lot of market, and not to talk less of people who are actually running enterprises and all that.
If I may ask, how long does the training take? Because based on what you've said now, if I sign up for the 1,000 package, you train me so I can write the...
You bid yourself and
myself.
Yeah. I think the 1K one is a month. So, but what we then get to do is that we can rework the schedule of how the training is being delivered, so that we can start prioritizing you writing from day one. You get what I mean? So that other elements that are more information we can push it towards the end, but then I would prioritize the information you need to actually start writing. I don't know if you get what I mean, so that we can get that interest of yours out, and then
yes, because that's really important at the
very
minute.
important information. Yes, so that's a way we can do it.
Okay, do you mind still sending your email so that we can? Because I've
done that actually. It's on the
leave now.
Yeah, it's to everyone on the
okay. I'll look out for it. Thank you.
Yeah, just send me an email, then I would respond and we can take it forward from there.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. I think any more questions?
Okay.
Let's send
Any more questions from anyone?
in case anybody wants to still sign up.
Any comments? So the email is in the chat if anyone wants to copy. Okay, I think the price is the same for people in Nigeria. I know that we have people from Nigeria here. And also, could this be used to raise funds in Nigeria, charitable funds in Nigeria?
Yes, I know. I know. So first of all, let me publicly apologize because I know we've been on that conversation for a while now, and I haven't really had time to take it on very strongly. Yes, there is an opportunity to do that, big opportunity to do that. However, there are two routes. So if you've got a charity in Nigeria and you want to do stuff locally back home, you can raise international finance for Nigerian projects. So you can raise grants, and also we can also weave that. So if you have interest in that, I can also weave that into a coaching program to help you identify the international sources to raise money for projects in Nigeria. That can be much more intricate because there are many other factors to there are many other things to factor into that. But I can add it and support in that area. So yes, you can raise money, but mostly will be through international grants or funding providers. There are some UK funding providers who do work in Nigeria as well. But one of the very best strategy I try to encourage people to look at is to register something similar here. So when you have something similar being registered here, you can literally mirror what you're doing back home, do it here, just fine tune it for the UK market, raise money to do that here. And then once you begin to build capacity, build income capacity and all that, you can